You come to order, please. Stand pledge of allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
Roll call, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Trenary. Councilman Litherland.
Here.
Councilman Bowman.
Here.
Councilman Brown.
Here.
Mayor Ashman.
Here. Okay. We don't have any public comment tonight, so approval of minutes, meeting minutes from April 5th, 2023, regular meeting.
I motion that we approve the regular meeting minutes from April 5th, 2023, regular meeting. I will second that.
Vote, please.
Councilman Brown.
Yes.
Councilman Bowman.
Yes.
Councilman Litherland.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Trenary. Mayor Ashworth.
Yes. Okay, reports, Administrator Frank.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. First, Jim Daly, one of our custodians, have been here 5 years, so I don't think he's here right now. They normally work at night, so usually from about 7 to 1 or 2 in the morning. So if you do see him around, though, thank him. A couple of updates. We got a notification from the SRF fund that everything's approved. They're just waiting on the signature from their boss, and so that's the 300,000 water and sewer for the utility line extensions. And then I talked to DOLA today. We had applied for another 25,000 from DOLA for the wastewater treatment plant. And we've got all the information into them. They're going to be discussing that May 17th. So we should have an answer on that by the end of the month. And that looks positive also. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Finance Director, Paul.
Good evening, Council. Let me give you a quick update on the second quarter device count. It was down 14 machines or 0.5% compared to the first quarter. But most distressing is our lack of recovery from the pre-COVID time. Compared this quarter to the first quarter of 2020, prior to COVID, we were still down 776 machines or 22%. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Okay, presentation and updates, so.
Also, how are you this evening? Saul Mealy, United States Liaison for City of Cook Creek. This is Councilman Bowman and seen yet. So nice to meet you. So I did. There's a document for you, and you should have it. I usually come up mid-session, but I'm about 41 days away from mid-session, but I was counting. So we are 101 days into the 120-day session. There's a lot moving. There are almost 600 bills introduced, with the average being about 640, 650 each year. I'm actually expecting to see less bills introduced with the new legislature the way it is. In the House, there are 65 members, 46 of those are Democrats and 19 are Republicans. So that is a huge Democrat majority. In the Senate, there are 23 Democrats and 12 Republicans out of the 35. So they're both very large majorities in both chambers. And then, of course, we have Governor Polis, who is a Democrat. So that trifecta is played out in interesting ways. Some good, some not so good. It just kind of depends on what the issue is. As far as our bills, we are supporting one and opposing / amending two. The one bill we are supporting is House Bill 1091, and that's the continuing the child care tax credit. contribution tax credit. There was a piece in that bill that allowed someone to give up to $1 million of in-kind contribution in the form of land, and that was pulled out of the bill. I'm still trying to figure it out, but I think we're getting to a pretty good place. We still support the bill, and we need it just for our city to remain viable with city employees and casino, restaurant, business employees. We need that childcare. So that bill has made it through the House and is over in the Senate, and I think it's going to be we don't know yet, but it's in good shape. So we should be good there. We're opposing two bills. One is Senate Bill 111, and the other is 166. One having to do with the public employees workplace protections. It basically takes away a lot of local and autonomy within the city and how you all deal with employees. You do a really good job and we're dedicated to your employees, and we do this with Cambridge, which is why we're opposed, and we will also specify CMO to with that. And then there's Senate Bill 166, which creates a state standard for wildfire mitigation, and you would have to use that or above those standards, and we think it should be up to the locality to determine how to. So that's where we are with that. The issues that I've actually worked most on were the illegal internet cafes that were popping up all over the state. I talked to the gaming director numerous times, trying to figure out how we're going to deal with it. This is a very dangerous precedent that is being set now because there are municipalities that are issuing general business permits and licenses. And these internet cafes, the ones we've outlawed now twice, are popping back up. Again, we've heard all over the Springs, Burlington, El Paso. So it really fell out. So it is a problem. There are federal actions taking place, but we need to as well figure out how law enforcement will deal with it. Nobody's on the same page. So we're trying to get that under control under the division to figure out how to stop these guys because they keep coming back. I mean, there's money, and if there weren't, they wouldn't come back. So, and it's pulling money directly from Cripple Creek because the majority of them are in farms. Last one is there was a bill that we heard of that would allow sports betting on reservations. That would be a problem for us because it pulls their taxing structure is very different than than just being on reservation. And I do believe there would be a financial it wouldn't work out for us if that were to pass. We would just get less revenue, as would the state water plant, as with one of other entities. So that's kind of my report. We have 19 days left, which is really nice. But yeah, I just mostly want to come down here and see you all and see if you have questions. Anything else I could be doing?
Good to see you again. Thanks.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah.
Anybody have any questions?
Nope. I don't think so.
Great. Good job.
I'm gonna head back up to Denver for my 8 o'clock meeting. And
Wow. Be careful. Appreciate to see you, Saul.
All right. New business. First reading, consider approval of ordinance 2023-01, authorizing penalties for violation of car bans within the city of Cripple Creek and declaring an emergency. Our chief.
Yes, good evening, Mayor, Council, Joe O'Connell, Fire Chief. As we discussed at your last meeting, we instituted a fire ban within the city limits. However, there are no civil penalties in the city municipal code to address violations. The proposal before you tonight was drafted by our city attorney. It amends this municipal code, obviously has no impact on the criminal code related to arson. Those are still serious charges that remain as they have been. But for enforcement of the fire ban, my recommendation of the police chief and I is to move forward with this proposal. I'm glad to answer any questions.
You know if any other municipalities has one of these ordinances? Is Woodland have one, you know, or
I would defer that to our city attorney. I do not.
don't know?
The dollar amount you came up with, is that,
So that's the cap by
That's the
state
cap
or
by
by
the-
state law. And obviously it would be up to the municipal judge to set any violations
okay, so,
accordingly. That just sets an upper limit.
so basically it's pretty vital.
All right, thank you very much.
Anything?
No.
All right, do I have a motion?
Motion to approve ordinance 2023-01. Authorizing penalties for violation of fire bans within the city.
I'll second that.
Vote please.
Councilman Litherland,
Yes.
Councilman Bowman,
Yes.
Councilman Brown,
Yes.
Mayor Ashford.
Yes. Item B, consider awarding a housing authority land trust investigation contract to affordable housing consultants. Jeff? you want-
Yes, good evening, council. You've hopefully had an opportunity to read through the information that you've got there. You've got the RFP, you've got the proposal from Affordable Housing Consultants, Inc., and the contract that they have signed in that packet. If you have any questions, let me know. There is going to be two phases to this project. The first phase, they're going to present information to you so that you can make an educated decision on what direction to head to acquire or create more affordable housing in our community, or move ahead with doing something completely different than what they're going to suggest. So they're going to come in with several different concepts, whether it's a housing authority, land bank, land trust, nonprofit type setup, and present that to you. Once you make that decision, then they will help us or assist us in the development of that entity. And so that's phase two, which they could not bid on because they don't know which direction they're going to be going. So that's all the information on that. So I'm asking that you award this contract and we'll get this signed and off to them.
Jared, you have a
Questions?
question?
Yeah, are we gonna receive information that, I mean, basically that we already know that we have a housing shortage?
No, this is not a housing study.
Okay, so.
This is a, how do we want to manage affordable housing? How do we bring it in? And how do we manage that outside of the government? So a housing authority is a quasi-government organization, an entity that would have a board and would answer to the city. But it's a government agency. So some cities have chosen to go with nonprofit rather than that, because you can get some more funding. And it or a land bank or a land trust, which again, I don't understand all of it. That's why we hired a consulting company to come in and explain it all to us. But it's how do we create affordable housing projects, whether that's build new ones or take what we have in our inventory and upgrade them. There's a lot of funds for that right now. And then how do you manage those properties in a way that maintains the affordability in perpetuity? So how does it grow and at what level? So that we don't have houses being built for affordable and then selling 6 months down the road at market value and having developers making or investors making a bunch of money. So they're going to help us determine that. What's it going to look like? So it's not a housing study. It's not necessarily what do we need, but how do we move forward with affordable housing?
So this company, or they generally deal with what is their main scope of work? Is it like Section 8 HUD housing?
They do some. They're all with HUD. They do land banks, land trusts, and housing authorities, and so they've got quite a bit of experience. And they have one of their subcontractors that's an attorney, and that's all he does is help set that up, which will help Aaron considerably with the information that comes in. So we've got somebody that specializes in the legal side of it.
Jeff, after they do their study, they'll recommend to city council which direction they might consider.
They could give us a recommendation, or they could present and say, you know, in our opinion, we think this is what would work best for Cripple Creek after doing all their interviews and research.
So what I was referring to, what I'm going to refer to is the housing authority. I mean, we have a population of what, 1,300 and a housing authority.
Yeah, that's what they're.
It seems to me, you know, well, we can't find people to, you know, be on the cemetery committee, the HB committee. It's going to be a stretch trying to find somebody on the housing.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that's why they have several other options that they're going to present. And again, that's a quasi government. It can be a paid position as well. That's what other cities do, or other communities do, is pay those positions. So it is a hired. So it's a little different than asking for volunteers. We have reached out to Victor and Woodland Park. They are also interested. So we're hoping when they do their presentation, we do a joint work session like we did with the recreation and have all three councils there, because having other municipalities participate would be advantageous to everyone. And we get more affordable in our area, affordable housing.
I don't know, it just seems, I know, we all know we got a housing problem, affordable housing problem. Seems like we've been down this road before. We've been doing surveys and studies, and I don't know if it's really done any good. And I don't know, what is this, Jeff, gonna cost the city? About 20 some grand?
Yeah, it's a 25% share. So it's been our match with DOLA, which was approved in 2021 is when we started the process. So, and again, this is a little different because we're trying to create an entity that can move forward and make the affordable housing happen and then keep it there. So maintain it and establish what affordable housing is in our community.
Oh, definitely need affordable housing and you know, it's a big pullback on businesses securing employees and holding employees in the city as well. So I think is a grant that pay for this?
Yeah, we received the grant in 2022. So we're moving forward with this RFP to get the consulting firm. And we're not alone. There was a struggle to get RFPs returned. And that I contacted DOLA to make sure that we can move forward with this selection. They said the problem is there's 25 or 30 other communities doing the exact same thing we are. So a lot of the consulting firms are just booked. So this company, once we looked into them, called their references, this company has got great references. Just was at the housing conference yesterday and Monday, and the folks that knew this company were very supportive of them. So it's a good, I think it's a good move for us, and we're going to get some good information out of it. And hopefully they'll create an entity for us. So we'll get that set up as well.
Was the money set aside in the 2023 budget for this?
No, it was. Yeah. Yes.
Our max is in the budget.
Yes.
Anything else? Thank you.
Thank you.
Got her motion to consider awarding the housing authority.
Well, you know, in the past, it seems like we've been down this road before, but you know, I'm all for getting something happening with affordable housing. It's in the budget. I don't know. What do you think?
Again, as you just said, we've been down this road 10,000 times in the last 15 years. However,
Well, I've asked for a motion.
I'll motion that we approve the awarding the Housing Authority Land Trust investigation contract to affordable housing consultants.
There a second?
I'll second that.
Vote please.
Councilman Bowman,
Yes.
Councilman Brown,
Yes.
Councilman Litherland,
Yes.
Mayor Ashford.
Yes. Then item C, consider approval of resolution 2023-09 approving PUD concept plan for development of up to 519 apartment units in the R2 zoning district, west of C Street, north of Thurlow Avenue, in Cripple, Colorado. Ken?
Yes, good evening, council, mayor. This is a presentation, a project we saw a presentation on our last council meeting. And the vote was to instruct the attorneys to generate a resolution of approval for this proposed PUD concept plan. Should be familiar with it, but certainly willing to answer any questions that you might have.
I'll make a motion that we approve resolution 2023-09 as written.
I'll second.
Vote please.
Councilman Litherland,
Yes.
Councilman Brown,
Yes.
Councilman Bowman,
Yes.
Mayor Ashford.
Yes. Then item D, consider approval of resolution 2023-10, denying approval of certificate of appropriateness to Century Casinos Incorporated for a new sign located at 200 East Bennett Avenue. Renee?
Renee's not here this evening. I'll be speaking on her behalf. This again is a item that was carried over from our last meeting. The sign at Century Casino. The attorney was instructed to prepare a resolution of denial for the proposed sign and the certificate of appropriateness that was granted or proposed. So again, you should be familiar with this and willing to answer any questions you may have.
There a motion? Approval of resolution 2023-10.
I will motion to approve resolution 2023-10, denying approval of certificate of appropriateness, Century Casinos.
I'll second.
Vote please.
Councilman Litherland,
Yes.
Councilman Bowman,
Yes.
Councilman Brown,
Yes.
Mayor Ashford.
Yes. Agenda item E, first reading of approval of ordinance 2023-02, amending Article 1 of the Cripple Creek Development Code to include medical marijuana stores and retail marijuana stores as uses allowed by conditional use permit in zone district B, C1, and C2, and adopting the state definition for the and specify location standards for such use in declaring an emergency. Staff,
And I'd be happy to take that, Mayor,
okay.
Council. What we have prepared for you is something that you've seen now, at least once in discussion. And I wanted to highlight the changes that were made since the work session discussion held on April 5th. At that discussion, council's direction was to add the C2 zone district as a zone district where the marijuana stores could be operated with a conditional use permit. So now this resolution allows for the marijuana stores to exist in the B, C1, and C2, but only by a conditional use permit. So we made that change. We also changed the distance limitation. There was some discussion about the distance limitation from churches. We've included a distance limitation for churches at 500 feet, and that was the direction we heard from council. We also have revised the provisions that are contained in section 1A easier to look at my red line, which I have with me. We have changed 1A8. It was made clear that the language as it existed with regard to what is stated there in 8, distance limitations from private recreational facilities. The concern was that, would that mean, for instance, the pool in the casino? And it was clear that that was not council's intent. You did not want to add to all the distance requirements a setback from pools and casinos, for example. So we clarified that based on the comment to strike that private recreational facility and to change that to a private community recreational facility. So that is really in the event that at some point there may be a community clubhouse or a community rec facility included in a new development. That's what this would now cover. And so we took care of that ambiguity. The other ambiguity was the other distance change that council requested was to reduce the setback from public parks from 500 feet to 200 feet. So we reduced that down to 250 feet. And then finally, along with that clarification about the private recreational facility and or clubhouse, we made that similar clarification to distinguish those uses down in paragraph 1B sub 2. So we made it clear that what we were talking about there was also a community clubhouse. We also added the emergency declaration to this ordinance. It'd be my recommendation that council can certainly consider the exigent circumstances here in order to make this resolution or this ordinance emergency ordinance. We do have to specify that there are circumstances that rise to the level of the emergency, and then it'd be my recommendation, and along with the city administrator's recommendation, that there are those kinds of exigent circumstances. We've now been waiting to get this industry up and running within the city, and we are waiting for those revenues to flow in from this industry. And so we really are at the point where adopting this ordinance on an emergency basis is recommended to you. And with that, I would recommend approval of this on first reading, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Very good.
Yeah.
There a motion approval ordinance 2023-02.
All motion to approve ordinance 2023-02. Amending Article 1 of the Cripple Creek Development Code to include medical marijuana stores and retail marijuana stores as uses allowed by conditional use permit in zone district B, C1, and C2, and adopting the state definitions for and specifying location standards for such uses and declaring an emergency.
I'll second that.
Vote please.
Councilman Bowman,
Yes.
Councilman Brown,
Yes.
Councilman Litterland,
Yes.
Mayor Ashford.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Agenda item F. First reading of approval ordinance 2023-07, an ordinance of the city council for the city of Cripple Creek, Colorado, imposing a temporary moratorium on submission, acceptance, processing, and issuing any permits or other approvals necessary for signage within the city of Cripple Creek and declaring an emergency. Frank?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. After some discussion among staff and a few council members and in the community, there's some questions about the current ordinance and what it allows, especially in the historic district. So staff is recommending at this time, I think Aaron drafted the ordinance that we put a moratorium in place. It says for a period of 120 days. I'm hoping it doesn't take that long. But I think I sent council, or we gave y'all copies of the current sign ordinance and also the HP historic preservation ordinance. I'd like to have a work session with council as soon as possible, maybe before the next council meeting. And we just talk about signs, what the current ordinance says, and see if the council has any input on any changes or additions or anything we need to make to the sign ordinance. And based on that workshop, I think we go forward. You know, it's kind of like we do with the marijuana ordinance. Have Aaron there, and comments council makes, we can put it into amending, if there are amendments. We can put it into amending ordinance, bring it right back to you at a council meeting. And so hopefully it doesn't take 120 days. We just gave ourselves latitude in case there is. And again, just like the ordinance you just passed, there's public hearing on it. So it will be it's kind of like what you just adopted for the marijuana. You're gonna have to hold public hearings. You can still amend that ordinance. You can still change things. Same thing with the sign ordinance. You know, we put an amendment together. The council thinks they'd like to hear, present it to the community, get public input, and see if you want to make some changes. We just think that there's some issues maybe coming forward the council's aware of that you might want to think about before you start processing any more applications. We already have 2 applications, and of course, we're not going to stop those applications that came in prior to the moratorium. So if anything's been submitted, we're going to move forward on those. We'll be seeing those coming to you. So that's really the whole purpose. Just give us a short period of time to step back, look at the ordinance, see if there's any changes that need to be made, and then move forward.
So when were you suggesting the moratorium start?
If you adopt the ordinance tonight, it would start today,
Or you go through the second reading?
Yeah, it would be effective on the night you adopt it second reading.
Oh, sorry.
How long? 120 days?
120. And we have to publish for second reading. So that's going to take.
And you did say anybody has application in right now would still go through the process.
Right. We had a little conversation before the meeting, and I don't know since you're.
Yes, happy to. And so, yes, clearly this ordinance can't be retroactive, right? So any application filed prior to tonight would be processed. From this point on, there is a ordinance pending. And so the pending ordinance would give the city the ability to say that applications filed after tonight would have to be subject to the moratorium.
That's why I said tonight.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, technically effective the night it's adopted on second reading, but effective under the pending ordinance doctrine tonight because you passed it on first reading.
So the applications that are already in, that will be in the process, still have to go to the ordinance that's already in place.
They would have to be processed. Clearly, if you change the ordinance later, that those signs could be rendered non-conforming, perhaps. But yeah, they would move those applications. The city would move those forward.
Well, I've been talking to a couple of the people that have submitted. Even if there's issues with their current application, we're going to still process their application. We're not going to say, oh, you didn't dot this I across this T, so we're not going to take it. No. If you come in with an application, even though it's not totally complete, we're going to accept the application. We're going to get it complete, or we're going to process it. Is that good? Yes, that's our intent.
Thank you.
Yes.
So here a motion to approve ordinance 2023-07.
Yes, I'll motion that we council approves ordinance 2023-07, an ordinance of the city council for the city of Cripple Creek, Colorado, imposing temporary moratorium on submission acceptance, processing, and issuance of any sign permits or other approvals necessary for signage within the city of Cobble Creek and declaring an emergency.
I'll second for that.
I'll second that. Vote please.
Councilman Little,
Yes.
Councilman Brown,
Yes.
Councilman Bowman,
Yes.
Mayor Axel.
Yeah. That concludes the business for tonight's meeting. So thank everyone for attending and good crowd. I see a good crowd. Everybody be informed on what's going on. So meeting adjourned.